My motion is on a call on the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports to postpone the planned election into the National Sport Federations and recall members of the board that were dissolved. The House notes that the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports recently dissolved the board of the various National Sport Festivals, National Sport Federations, and issued guidelines for elections into the federations. Also notes that the guidelines provide that prospective candidates who had spent 2 terms of 4 years each will not be eligible to contest into the sports federations. Aware that each federation derives its powers from its constitution and is autonomous, and any attempt to tamper with the constitutions without due process or by fiat is unlawful. Also aware that the National Federation is part of the Olympic movement, which has its own code and governance ethics, and the supreme instrument is the Olympic Charter. The House resolved, 1, to call on the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports to postpone the planned elections into the boards of the National Sport Federation and recall all members of the boards of the various sport federations that were dissolved. And 2, mandate the Committee on Sport to investigate the role of the Ministry of Youth and Sports in interfering and issuing the guidelines for election into the sport federations and report within 3 weeks.
We listen to members of the House of Representatives requesting that the Federal Ministry for Youth and Sports postpone the forthcoming elections and recall our members of the dissolved board. Yeah, I mean, that should get us talking. I don't know where they're coming from, but the Federal Ministry of Sport, they're looking at it like it's about time for change to come. But maybe these guys know some other things that we don't know.
Apart from change, they're also looking at incumbents not having unfair advantage. Sounds noble, But you see, we're in a society where whichever side you belong to, everybody feels that you have an interest. And even though what the honorables are saying, also very good, the question will be, will calling them back, allowing some of them to partake in elections, allowing some of them to have, because, I mean, the recommendation that the dissolved boards should be allowed to come back, preside over some of those elections. Will it not swing it? I mean, whichever side of the divide you belong to, it's difficult to argue. But for once, I find it difficult to fault the minister on this. For once,
and I understand. That's what you're struggling to understand why you can't fault him, is because you want to see changes from the different federations. You want to question the man that has been there for 8 years, and you haven't seen any change in that particular sport, and you are wondering what is coming to do again for another 4 years. That's the worry.
And I don't even have a problem with ambition, but if you're not going to make the space open, that's a problem. If you're just going to prevent somebody from getting to somewhere just because you don't like that person. In this part of the world, it's very difficult for people to relinquish power. It's very difficult for people to allow, but, we've seen cases where people just turn to be sit-tight leaders. I guess that's what the sports ministry is trying to avoid. Let's cleanse the system. Let's take whatever seems to be an advantage. I mean, like they say in the law, you can't be a judge over your own case. You can't be. So all of those things. I don't want it to look as if we're tilting towards what the sports ministry is. But for the balance, I think it's not a totally bad idea.
And again, more talking points from the guidelines that were released, and also some of the requirements. For instance, taking the zonal elections to Abuja. People have problems with it, but maybe that's the ministry's own way of saying we will monitor everything that is happening. But then again, you think it's fair taking zonal elections to Abuja?
Look, in this context, a lot of things will not be seen as fair. It will look at. I mean, you could even just mention in Abuja, you could start listing the pitfalls and all of those things. But we have to get it right one way or the other. There's no perfect system. There's no perfect system. I guess in this case, we're just trying to sanitize the system, and something had to be done. I mean, there's some federations you probably don't know who heads that federation, and everybody sings the same song. No money, no money, no money. We have to find ways of getting around the problems, and one of the ways is allowing people who genuinely love the sport, allowing them, be a position. I also do frown against also trying to get some people out just because of sentiment. There are one or two cases. I don't want it to look as if I'm pushing for some of those people, but I know one or two federations where probably the guy in the helm spent his money, his time, and doing all those things. And suddenly some guys came from somewhere and just wants to push the person away. So, it's difficult. In this one, you probably want to sit on the fence because, both sides of the argument look like they do have some points, But we'll wait to see what happens. But I have a feeling the ministry's decision will probably stand.
I agree.